here. And listen, just had a thought. Thoughts from the trail. I'm Mark Pruitt. I am the Pruitt side of Robertson Pruitt. The Defiance Daily Show every week, Friday in the morning, 11 a.m. Central. The Defiance Daily Show with Robertson Pruitt. I'm the other half of the Robertson Pruitt. I'm Mark Pruitt, here with Thoughts from the Trail, and lo and behold, I had a thought. Those of y'all that know me know that there are a number of topics and issues that are very near and dear to my heart for a number of different reasons. The foundation for most of those reasons is the concept of freedom and liberty. And one day waking up, realizing how blessed I was to be born in America at the time that I was. It wasn't until I was a little older that I started realizing, hey, this freedom and liberty thing is kind of rare. It's hardly ever happened throughout all recorded history. I don't know what the percentage is. I've heard people say 90 plus, we could be melodramatic. I would not be surprised to find out if there was a way to actually do the numbers and to calculate the population and all these different factors. I would not be surprised to discover that 99.9999% of all of humanity never knew what it was like to live in freedom. Obviously, there were different cultures, different nations throughout history that had different levels of tyranny. And you could go back and, make an argument for the time in Great Britain, the Magna Carta. But I think throughout all of history, what you could mostly calculate was a level of tyranny, not a level of freedom. And of course, the less tyranny, the more freedom. Then along comes the United States of America, the colonies. I'm not going to rehash all the history and how Western Europeans landed on the shores of what we now know as America. I'm not going to go into that. That's something else. But bottom line, I remember when it began to dawn on me as a kid, and I was a little kid, how incredible, how overwhelming it almost was for me as a kid to on a daily basis go, I was born at this time. I can go ride my bike, I can get up Saturday morning, watch the cartoons, eat my cereal, run and see Kevin and Johnny and some of my other buddies. We jump on bikes, ride around in safety. Our parents, for those of y'all, what is it, Gen Zers or Gen Xers, or I'm at the very end of the baby boomer era. Those of y'all that can relate, you know what I'm talking about. We'd get on our bikes and we would ride for miles in relative safety. We could do things, no matter our socioeconomic status, for the most part, if you live in this country and if you work and you don't do stupid stuff and you don't make a bunch of stupid decisions, you can have a family and you once a year take a nice trip somewhere. And when I mean nice, I'm not talking about to the Maldives. I'm talking about maybe you could go to Florida, or maybe you could go see family in Missouri or whatever, and you could take a week or two and go visit and, maybe stay at a hotel a couple of nights that has a pool, those types of things. How many of y'all can relate to that? This young generation today, they're shaking their head going, what are you talking about? That's okay. It's for another lesson. Bottom line, I'm just setting the table here for this discussion because it is important. Freedom. Freedom. Oh, it still takes my breath away. And yet, most Americans today, they can't even define it. They don't know what it is. You ask most Republican voters, hey, can you articulate, can you give me a definition? And I'm not talking about open up Webster's. I'm talking about give me a cogent, articulate definition of freedom/liberty. Go. I would venture to say, because I do this quite often, less than 1 in 10 Republicans can give you any sort of a cogent, somewhere in the ballpark of accurate definition, idea of what freedom is. And that's when you know we as a culture, we as a country, are in huge trouble. You ask the average person, hey, where does freedom come from? What's its origin? Who granted us freedom? That's a good question. I'm not asking this, look, guys, I'm not asking these questions of Democrats, libtards, communists, people, I'm not asking them. I ask these questions to quote unquote conservatives. And the vast majority of time when I ask these questions, I get blank stares. Or I get some sort of rambling that's all over the place, that's using terms and, terminologies and big words, and they're just stumbling and grumbling and realize, holy shit, I don't really know what freedom is. Use the word all the time. Supposedly we're fighting for freedom. Supposedly some of these people were served in the military, fought for freedom. Okay, can you lay that out for me? What is that? What does that look like? What does that mean? How does that equate into a person's life? We don't have it. There are two reasons. Well, actually, it's one reason why we are in the mess we are in today. Whether it's abortion, whether it's, all this woke crap going on, watching young people cut off their genitalia and things of this nature. First of all, it's God. We've eliminated God. But how did the communists so easily eliminate God? How did they do it? You gotta give them a hand. Brilliant. Brilliant. See, folks, none of it was by accident. As my fellow co-host on the Robertson Pruitt show, the Defiance Daily show with Robertson Pruitt, Travis Roberts, I love this, and I steal it all the time, but I do give him credit. None of this is by accident. It's all by design. It's all on purpose. Folks, you got to give the commies a round of applause for just the mere brilliance and the effectiveness and the efficiency at which they were able to do the things that they were able to do in this country. And today, the vast majority of Republicans can't even define freedom. How did they do this? How did they get rid of God? How did they, ladies and gentlemen, it's public education. And I know, so many people squirm, so many people turn me off right then because I know why. You guys keep sending your kids. And I always follow up with, especially your daughters. Oh my God. And by the way, if you don't know the difference between boys and girls, men and women, if you don't know the difference between the biology, the psychology, emotional, as emotional beings, boys and girls are very different. Men and women are very different. And yet, Oh, God. By the way, that was one of the reasons why it used to be very popular in the best schools. You had boys' schools and you had girls' schools. They were segregated by sex because it's just common sense. Boys and girls are very, very different in almost everything. And when you hear somebody say that, especially a man, especially white, or let's say, especially Mr. Caucasian boomer here. When a Caucasian boomer, a masculine white man, says, men and women are different. Boys and girls are very different. You know what's really, again, I don't count Democrats and commies and all that other. I know how they think. Nothing, those people, it's kind of like Satan. Listen, we all know what Satan, I gotta quit saying we all or everyone, because it's not true. A few of us know what Satan's all about and what he's up to. That's a given. I want to know, so when it comes to the Democrats and the commies, the globalists, there's a few. We know what their game plan is. We know what they're up to. The wild card is not the Democrats and commies. The wild card is the frickin' Republicans. You don't believe me? Look at Republican senators and congressmen. Look at governors. We've got a peach of a governor here in Texas, Wheels Abbott. One of the most corrupt, rhino, and yet, you've got all kinds of Republican voters who can't wait to vote for that man, even though he locked our state down for a year and a half because of the China virus. This is how twisted and dumb and irrational Republican voters are. They'll, on one hand, claim they love freedom, but then continue to send people like Senator John Cornyn, Senator Lindsey Graham. We can go down the list of Republican senators. There may be one or two of all the Republican senators that are worth a damn. The rest are freaking rhino commies. And these are elected and reelected in red states. How does that happen? Here's how it happens. Public education. If I can talk a parent, especially a quote-unquote conservative Christian Republican parent, if I can convince them to let a corrupt state, which all the states are corrupt, I love these pathetic people who try to well, my kid goes, we have a really good school district. Stop it. Quit saying that. You sound so stupid. Because you're either a complete moron or you're a freaking liar. One or the other. Stop saying that. It's impossible. There are no good school districts. There are no good public schools. I'll break all that down into another thought from the trail one day, but I can prove it. It's easy to prove. Easily proven. At the end of the day, how are communists getting their agendas done? It's through public education. Instead of me trying to explain all that to you, why don't you guys read some good books? Get off the frickin' computer. Learning your news from social media, learning what to believe from social media posts, from the Google machine and things, that is, first of all, it's just not real smart. It's very low IQ. It's very low IQ. Getting your news, and it just, man, I think Platforms like Twitter offer a platform that are good for discussions and exchange of ideas, and I'm all about that. But I'm talking about the people. It's unbelievable the number of people that will read a post on Facebook, and it can say whatever, and they'll pass that around like, "Oh my God, look what's happening! Look what so and so did." And I go, has that been substantiated? Is that verified? I mean, do you know? I mean, what are the sources on that? It's a meme. It's why would they be sharing if it isn't? Anyway, I digress. How did the commies get us in the situation we're in today? By the way, I know Trump's in office. God bless him, doing a great job, incredible job. I think it's fantastic. I'm a supporter. I'm not a fanboy. I don't fanboy politicians, and I don't think you should either. But I am a supporter. Voted for him both times, all three times actually. And I think he's going to go down in history as one of the top three greatest presidents. And it could be in any one of those slots. But he's definitely going to be in the top three presidents that has ever served. Whether he ends up being the greatest or the second greatest or the third greatest. And I don't know how you would grade that, but I am a big supporter. And I'm grateful. And I think God played a major role in Trump winning the election this last time, his third time to run. But at the end of the day, folks, we're looking at a budget, the great big giant wonderful bill and all this with trillions of wasted dollars, stolen dollars. It's not a good bill, folks. Sorry, it's just not. It's a horrible bill. Full of fat. Is there some really great stuff in there? Some stuff that we desperately probably need to pass? Yeah, there is. But because the way Washington works and the reasons in the way it's so corrupted, because we the people have allowed it, it's not a good bill. And there are a couple of holdouts there. God bless them. There are some actual rock, conservative, patriot, true American heroes that are elected officials in Congress. I don't think there's any in the Senate that are standing up by themselves, and they're not just being disruptors. They're being led by their conscience. I think these are prayerful men, and they're saying no, and they're taking a lot of heat for it. But they're sounding the alarm, folks. How did the communists pull this off? It's through public education. How do you get a Christian, a conservative, someone who says they love their children, care about their children? How do you talk that person, that mother, that father into saying, hey, you see your little 5-year-old girl there? She's sweet. Look at those little pigtails and her little dress. Oh, she's so good. Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take her down to a building couple miles away, and there's going to be some government employees. Don't worry, they're college graduates. Yeah, they've attended these great colleges that teach all the socialism, communism, abortion, transgender, pro-Palestine. Yes, those learning institutions. And stop it with I went to college, I conservative. Listen, unless you went to Hillsdale, you went to a communist government indoctrination center. Sorry. You went to a communist indoctrination center and you spent a lot of money. Anyway, another discussion. So we're going to take your sweet little 5-year-old girl. Isn't she adorable? What is her name? Oh, that's beautiful. So what we're going to do is for 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day, whatever it is, I don't know, some places are different, but let's say 6 or 7 hours a day, we're going to take her down to that building that's full of government employees that are graduates of government indoctrination centers that teach all the socialism, all the Darwinism, all the things that destroy a society and destroy families, because that is their actual goal, is to destroy the family. Even though your teacher is a very nice young lady that's so sweet and says she goes to church and, oh, she's just wonderful. Mark, you just don't understand. My daughter's kindergarten teacher is so sweet, and she's a Christian. She goes to, the First Presbyterian Church down here, which flies pride flags, by the way, but we won't discuss that. And she's a wonderful young lady, and she doesn't have any pride flags in her classroom. And think about this. Take your little 5-year-old innocent girl and let the state begin their evil. And it's so subtle. It's so subtle. And you turn your children over to the state to be propagandized, to be indoctrinated. What? How does this happen? How does this happen? When you stand back and look at it, again, you got to give the communists credit. You got to give them credit. How do they pull it off? And you got conservatives that are fighting to keep public schools open. Fighting. We got to fix them. How long have we been fixing public schools, folks? How long have we been trying? Well, when I went to public school, we weren't learning. Yes, you were. Hey, I went to public school back in the 70s and 80s. In fact, I think my first year of public school was 1969-70. No. They weren't any good then either, folks. You got to understand how these communists work. It's subtle. It's so subtle, you don't even realize you were propagandized. But you were. You want me to prove it? Because today, you now send your kids to public school. And you're okay with it. And you can't tell me the public schools today are okay or that your kid goes to one that's okay. I promise. Give me a couple of days to put cameras and listening devices in the classrooms of your school, your really good public school. Yeah, the one that your kid goes to, because it's exemplary. Yeah, just give me a week to gather data. Yeah, your kid's school sucks. It's evil. It exists for one reason and one reason only. And if you go back to the origins of public education, why it was started, why it was created, it'll scare the shit out of you. And that is precisely why you won't study the history. Because if you did, you'd become convicted of it, and then you'd have to figure out how to raise. You'd then have to take responsibility for raising your children. Oh, the horror. Folks, we got a lot of work to do. Guys, husbands, and I know today's world is very different. And I do listen to the Red Pill podcasts. I understand what it's like to go through divorce. I understand all these different factors, and that you might be sitting there as a godly man, devastated that your kids are going to a public school, but your wife, even though she's she belongs to the Tea Party and she's a conservative, but she's a feminist. She's an absolute feminist. And she wants to send the kids to public school so that, she can pursue her career and, be a boss babe. And she's strong and independent. I'm woman, hear me roar. I get it. And you're sitting there going, Mark, I can't tell her what to do. I can't lead her. Because at any time, she could just stand up and say, you know what? I'm not happy anymore. Give me half your stuff. And she'll get it. And the kids. I get it. We're in a pickle, folks. we're in a real, real pickle. And we stepped into the trap voluntarily. Nobody forced us. All I'm saying, my message to you is, better start waking up, better start paying attention. Because although, yay, Trump's in office and we've got, a majority in the House and the Senate, all those are great. I'm not diminishing any of that. I'm cheering just like you are because I love freedom, and I would like to see America brought back from the dead. I would love to see America resurrected. But I am telling you, if you think a politician or a political party or an election is going to resurrect America, you're very wrong. You're very wrong. And as long as the vast majority of our young folks are being propagandized and indoctrinated in public schools, the future is not bright. One thing else I wanted to address to this, and I know I've gone long. One of the things I hear from parents that try to justify putting their kids in government indoctrination centers, well, Mark, we don't want to, we don't want to be helicopter parents. We don't want to, be overprotective because you know what that leads to. And I'm going, no, well, explain that to me. How does that, I understand. Do you want to take your 13-year-old, you want to take your young son to the titty bar? Why not? Are you being a little overprotective? Shouldn't he be learning about women and titties and sex? What are you worried about? Why? I think you're being a little overprotective, sir, ma'am. See, first of all, that whole argument is just, it fails. It's one of those arguments that you cringe when somebody uses it because you instantly realize you're dealing with somebody who doesn't have a very high IQ, pretty simple-minded, and they have been effectively propagandized by the public education system, by the news media, by the communists. And they don't even understand what they should be protecting their kids from and why it's important that the parent, the family unit, educate and raise the kid, their own freaking child. They don't grasp that. And it's, again, when you stop, turn all the noise off around you, and think about that for a minute, when it dawns on you, it's a big day. Because then you go, holy crap, how did we get here? So I hear parents say, well, Mark, I don't want to be, overprotective. And we all know what happens to those homeschoolers. They all end up weird. They're unsocialized. Which today now, there's more and more. There are millions of kids now. Thank God there are a handful of parents out there that are getting it. Oh, thank God. I meet homeschoolers all the time now. I know they're homeschooled before I even shake their hand or even have a conversation with them. I can see in their eyes, first of all, they're not medicated. Ooh, I know that bothers a lot of parents. Yeah, you know what? If it wasn't for public school, sir, ma'am, your son wouldn't be medicated, which is just outlandish. If you don't understand it, please look up a guy named Dr. Jordan Peterson. I know you've heard the name. Pretty smart guy. You might want to listen to some of his talks, which include all the psychological data, all the research of why, how it is absolutely destructive to put boys on these psych medications for ADHD and things like that. How these boys are destroyed by that. And now we have enough evidence because now they're young adults and we're seeing all the drug addictions, the suicides, the depressions, the anxieties, all the issues because they started taking Ritalin when they were 12, 10, 11 years old because some public school teacher or administrator said, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, you obviously know that little Billy here has an attention disorder. He can't sit still 8 hours a day. And you bought it. You bought it. I just think about it. I'm not here to condemn. I'm here to wake you up. Nobody's failed more than I have. Nobody. I promise you. All the stupid things you've done, if we sit down, took notes, I promise you, I got you beat. But at least I woke up. At least I eventually took responsibility. At least now I'm doing my share, my part. And ringing the alarm so that you don't have to make all the mistakes that I did. Wake up. I love when these parents say, well, we send Susie to, because we have we know all of our teachers. We go to all the parent-teacher conferences, and, it's a great school district. Her particular school is an exemplary school, which I don't know if you know what you got to do to be, get that exemplary status within, the state of Texas or Tennessee or Florida, by God. And we've been to the school. There's no pride flags there. Oh, God, where do I start? And, we take responsibility as parents because we have discussions with Susie, and we spend a lot of time in deep conversation with no TV, no internet on, no anything. We spend hours a day making sure that everything that she learned in that school building is in alignment with our values and our Christian principles and what we believe. Y'all see where I'm going with this? Okay, sir. Okay. Does your wife believe this? I mean, when you say this that you spend enough time with your daughter to overcome any of the communist propaganda she's been fed for 8 hours a day, you spend the same amount of hours deprogramming her or your son. I mean, do you really, you're going to tell me that with a straight face? Because it's not true. I know it's not true. And even if it were, think about this. You're sending Billy, now he's a freshman in high school, and every day you want to spend 3 hours at the dinner table, not the full 8, let's just say 3. You spend 3 hours at the dinner table every evening after school going through the day to make sure that the things that Billy has been taught about Darwinism and any of these quote unquote benign subject matters, you make sure that you come in and dispel them with the truth. Let's just say that actually happens. Do you think if you've raised a child now who is a young man, because a freshman in high school is now a young man, by the way. He's not a child. He is a young man. Do you think that the young man that you have now raised to be intelligent, thoughtful, they can think on his own, question, do you think he's ever going to pause and say, hey, Mom, Dad, why do you keep sending me someplace and tell me to pay attention and learn what they're telling me just so that I can come home and have you then question everything and set everything that I was just taught there? You're trying to fix it. What? I don't know. Why would you do that? Why would you send me to a place for 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day? Maybe longer, maybe shorter. I don't know, but it's a substantial part of the day. Why would you send me to a place to be quote unquote educated by people who you say are smarter than me, that are smarter than you, obviously, because you say you can't do what they're doing, so they're obviously smarter than you. Why do you send me there? And then when I get home, we spend 3 hours every evening at the dinner table going through each class, each topic, and giving you an opportunity to make sure that I haven't been taught wrong. If you've raised an intelligent kid, can you see why they would probably rebel against that stuff? They would be completely confused. They would be demoralized, actually. They wouldn't know what to do. So those parents who make the argument, well, yes, my kids go to a public school. It's a great school. All of their teachers are Christian. Yes, they are. They go to the Episcopalian church over here, and they're Christian. Well, by the way, if you go to the Episcopalian church they go to, it's all got pride flags. And folks, these commie teachers that are teaching your kids, do you not think, especially if they're teaching school in areas that are predominantly white and more Republican and more conservative, do you think for a minute, now I know there's some because they've exposed themselves and they're gone. Communists don't come out, for the most part, waving the red flag. You don't think in these parent-teacher conferences, when you ask them things like, well, we're Christians, and we teach Christian values in our home and stuff. You don't think this teacher's not going to go, oh, listen, I go to the Presbyterian church right down the corner, and I'm a Christian too. And you don't think these teachers are bright enough to play you? Again, if that's what's going on, we're in a lot of trouble. People better wake up. It's a lot at stake, folks. In the words of my good friend, my partner, Travis Roberts, that's a bold strategy, Cotton, which, by the way, is a movie line for those of you who don't know. You get extra points if you make a comment on our next podcast this Friday at 11 a.m. Central, live on Rumble, the Defiance Daily Show. You can find us live on Rumble at Defiance Press. Make a little comment, name the movie. Funny movie. Bold strategies there, Cotton. Anyway, we'll end it there. Hey, no matter what, remember, God made you. God made you special. You are unique. There's never been anyone like you ever before since Adam and Eve. There's never been another you, nor will there be ever in the future be another you. You're that unique and special. Now just live like it. Just live like that. Be appreciative. Honor God. And be grateful that you live in a time and a place that is so unique and so full of opportunity. Don't ever hesitate to be grateful for that. Anyway, this is Pruitt, the Defiance Daily Show with Roberts and Pruitt, signing off.